What's going on, Eurovoxxers? Hello, Paolo. Hello, Jess. So, guys, today we saw the semifinal allocation draw in Rotterdam. It's the first official event, really, and what it means is that the Eurovision Song Contest has officially come to Rotterdam. Although, of course, the actual contest is still months away, we do actually know who is going to be competing in what semifinal. So, let's talk about it. All right, so let's take a look at who's going to be competing against who in the semifinals. Let's start with semifinal one.
Okay, in the first half, we have North Macedonia, Belarus, Lithuania, Sweden, Slovenia, Australia, Ireland, and Russia. And in the second half of the first semi-final, we have Norway, Cyprus, Croatia, Azerbaijan, Malta, Israel, Ukraine, Romania, and Belgium.
In semi-final 2, we have in the first half Austria, Moldova, Poland, San Marino, Serbia, Iceland, the Czech Republic, Greece, and Estonia. And in the second half of semi-2, we have Denmark, Bulgaria, Switzerland, Finland, Armenia, Latvia, Georgia, Portugal, and Albania.
And of course, we should also mention the Big Five and the host country. As you can see, France will be watching and voting for semifinal 2, Germany semifinal 1, as well as Italy and the Netherlands. And then finally, Spain and the United Kingdom will be joining France for semifinal 2. Okay, so that's what we know so far about how the semifinals are going to look. Of course, later on, they're going to be releasing the running order, which will also change our idea of how the semifinals will go. But Paolo, I have to wonder, how much can we actually definitively say at this point?
Well, considering that we barely have any songs out right now, it's hard to see anything that could happen at the moment. What we can see right now is basically the voting patterns that could potentially happen. So if there's going to be friendly voting, if there's going to be countries that will definitely not vote for each other, is that it seems very evenly dispersed in terms of neighboring countries and countries that traditionally vote for each other. So, for example, I'm seeing Greece and Cyprus, they're not in the same semi-final. Romania and Moldova, they're not in the same semi-final. Latvia and Lithuania, they are all in separate semi-finals. So it'll be very interesting to see where their points would be going towards, because they would traditionally give each other really, really high points. So it would be interesting to see that voting dynamic in this year. One thing I also saw from just looking at the list is that the first semi-final seems to be very stacked with a lot of countries that traditionally do extremely well in Eurovision. So it'll be countries like Russia, Sweden, Australia, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, and Romania and Norway to an extent. So if you're looking at it from face value, it would have seemed that the first semi-final would be a bloodbath at the moment, but that is not set in stone because obviously the songs haven't been out yet. Mm-hmm. If we cast our minds back to 2018, it was, and where semi-final 1 was the bloodbath, it turned out to be. When the semi-final draw came out, it seemed that semi-final 2 would be the bloodbath because it had like Russia, Sweden, and Australia, and all of the countries I just named. But at the time, we didn't know any of the songs, so it could all change once the songs are all out. So just because it's stacked with countries that traditionally do well, it doesn't mean that it is going to be a set in stone fight to the death semi-final.
Mm-hmm. And of course, I think there are a lot of factors to consider as well, because it's not just the songs. Obviously, the songs, once they are all released, they will, you'll see the rankings and the odds change. You'll see, people start choosing their favorites. But then also, by the time that we actually get to Rotterdam and we see the rehearsals, then there's going to be further changes. So, Jess, what are you making from what you see so far out of this semi-final allocation draw?
Looking back on Eurovision over the last couple of years, there's sort of certain countries that quite often will tend to do really well in Eurovision. So like Sweden and Russia and Australia, for example. And so based on this kind of this idea that certain countries do traditionally tend to do quite well in Eurovision, it looks as though semi-final one, like Paolo said, is the bloodbath semi and the really strong semi. But then obviously that could all change and we could get songs from these countries that are maybe not as good as they would normally send. And so it could turn out, like Paolo said, a 2018 situation again, where it all changes. So based on what I've seen, I'm kind of really nervous for semi-final one, because if all of these kind of big hitters as such send really good songs, then we're going to have to lose some really good songs in the semis, which I'm not looking forward to. But otherwise, it's a good draw. It's nice and even, if that makes sense. So like Cyprus and Greece are not together, Romania and Moldova are not together. But then you still do have some countries that kind of traditionally vote for each other, like Estonia and Finland, and I think Latvia in the same semi. But then when you've only got two semis, how can you divide up the whole of Scandinavia into two semis? You know, it's impossible.
And as you say, with countries that have many neighbors, you're not ever going to separate them completely from one another, because as you said, it's two semifinals. We haven't ventured into the area of 3 or 4 or 5, and who knows if we'll ever get to that point. But of course, it is important to remember that some countries are they benefit a little bit more from their neighboring allies than others do. And then there's also other things to think about, like in 2017, who could have predicted that Portugal, of all countries, would have come along with this song that would have such an impact? There is still so much more to find out. But it wasn't just about the semifinal allocation draw. This was also the first time that we saw our 3 hosts that will be taking us through the Eurovision Song Contest in Rotterdam in May. Guys, what were your impressions of them? Let's start with you, Paolo.
I thought they were great. Like, they seemed to click very, very well. They have a sense of humor, which is great. Chantal seemed to have like a dry sense of humor, like if you know what I mean. So it just seemed like straight with the face, but still bringing out the jokes, which settles with me quite well. Because I have a dry sense of humor, it's what I'm used to. So I'm kind of happy that that's there. So if they are bringing that dynamic and that sense of humor to this actual Eurovision stage, that would be really great to see. And there wouldn't be a lot of awkward moments, hopefully, in the final product.
To me, I kind of feel like they might have been a little bit restrained as well, because I know that there has been some discussion about the Dutch sense of humor and whether or not it will resonate with the rest of the continent. And to me, I think I was kind of expecting them to be a little bit more or a little bit less straight-laced. Jess, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Paolo actually, more so than you. Sorry, Stuart.
Yeah,
But I love how much fun they appear to be having. Like, you can tell that they're so excited to be hosting Eurovision, and that they're just so happy that they've kind of got this huge gig, if that makes sense. And they're just having so much fun with it. There's humor. They seem to gel really well together as well, and they have like a good connection, which hasn't always happened with Eurovision hosts over the last couple of years. But they just seem like a nice, funny, friendly Dutch team that I think will be amazing when the time comes in May.
And you mentioned that they seem to be really happy to be hosting it, and I definitely got that feeling as well, that there is a pride that's very palpable with their presentation and the theme overall. Of course, we've known for a while now that the slogan is "Open Up," and one thing that we got to see this time around is we got to see the logo integrated into the graphics, and we got to see how they use the country's colors in each graphic to transition the names in. I'm really looking forward to. It was very clever. I mean, not surprising as well because the whole logo is based off of the colors of the various flags, but done tastefully, and again, everything just seems to be very on brand. You can tell that they've been putting a lot of thought into how they wanted their show to be, the kind of impact that they wanted it to have on the continent.
It just seemed very slick to me. Like, it just seemed like they planned this out really well. Like, with the graphics, if this is how the graphics are like in January, God knows what's going to show up in May. Like, I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with the graphics.
Probably some. I mean, I would imagine that they would do some tweaking here and there, but it seems that what they have works for them, and let's see that idea spread throughout the rest of it. Let's see that idea translate onto the stage as well, and into the postcards. Let's see what they can do. So guys, these have been our thoughts on the semifinal allocation draw from earlier today. What do you guys think? Which semifinal are you looking forward to most, and where does your country land? Are you concerned about how your country's going to do, or do you think that you are a sure shoe-in? Of course, anything could change by the time we hear the songs, as we've said many times before, but we'd love to know what you think, so be sure to leave us a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to like us, follow us on all of our socials, reach out to us at Eurovoxx.net, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Bye.